Imagine you're 8,000 miles away, eating sand and dodging roadside bombs in Syria, when your phone buzzes with the email that says your grandfather's farmhouse, the one you grew up swinging on the porch with your wife, has just been auctioned off by your own homeowners association for a measly $912 in special assessments. That's not a nightmare. That's exactly what Dolores Dottie Harrington did to Staff Sergeant Ryan Hammer Callahan the moment his boots hit foreign soil. Dottie, 51, pearl-clutching president of Pine Valley Estates, Texas, had spent 6 glorious years turning a quiet subdivision into her personal fiefdom. White Lexus gleaming like her fake smile, married to the county commissioner, she lived for 2 things: enforcing rules nobody read and flipping foreclosed houses for fat profits. Military families? Just temporary tenants in her eyes, easy targets who couldn't fight back from a war zone. Ryan and Lauren Callahan had poured their souls into that 2.4-acre slice of Texas heaven. The 1940s white farmhouse with the wraparound porch, the red barn Grandpa converted into a mechanic shop, the little pond where Ryan proposed under a sky full of fireflies. It wasn't just property. It was legacy. 3 generations of Callahans had protected that land. Now, while Ryan fixed Bradley tanks in the desert, Dottie was busy fixing his future right out from under him. The first violation notices arrived like sniper fire. Polite little emails with smiley emojis that somehow still felt like a kick in the teeth. Unapproved barn color. Red is not on our approved palette. Excessive native grass height. Must be mowed to HOA standard of 2 inches. Non-conforming porch swing, safety hazard. Lauren, teaching 3rd grade and raising their twin boys alone, paid every fine with overtime and tears while Ryan tried to keep his voice steady on glitchy video calls. "Babe, it's just paperwork," he'd say, even as mortars popped in the background. Dottie wasn't satisfied with petty cash. Oh no. She had bigger plans. 3 months into Ryan's deployment, the special assessment hit. $912 for community beautification. Funny how the beautification fund always seemed to land on deployed soldiers' doors. Lauren begged for proof the notice was ever mailed. Dottie smiled sweetly at the emergency board meeting and said, "We followed every procedure, dear. Perhaps your husband should have updated his contact information before abandoning the property." Abandoning. The word spread through the neighborhood Facebook group like wildfire. Dottie made sure of it. Poor Lauren, holding it down while her husband plays soldier overseas. Some men just can't handle real responsibility. Neighbors who once waved at barbecues now crossed the street. The twins came home crying because classmates heard their dad left them broke. Lauren's principal pulled her aside. "There are rumors about stability." The slander was surgical. Dottie didn't just want the house. She wanted Ryan's reputation shredded so nobody would believe him when he fought back. Then came the auction. While Ryan was on a night patrol, strangers in crisp polo shirts walked through his home, measuring, photographing, laughing about how the old barn would make a cute yoga studio. Lauren recorded the whole thing on her phone, voice shaking as she whispered updates to Ryan through a spotty satellite link. "They're laughing, Ryan. They're actually laughing in Grandpa's kitchen." The gavel fell. Pine Valley Estates officially owned the Callahan homestead for the price of a used lawnmower. Dottie posted a victory photo on the HOA page. Her standing in front of the for sale sign she just planted, caption protecting property values for all of us. Sparkling heart. Ryan stared at the email in the dusty comms tent, fists clenched so hard his knuckles split. His platoon mates went dead quiet when they saw his face. They knew that look. It was the same one he wore right before he dragged a wounded brother out of a burning vehicle. Dottie thought distance meant weakness. She was about to learn that some soldiers bring the war home with them. Back in Pine Valley, Lauren refused to pack. She camped in the living room with the twins and a shotgun Grandpa left behind, daring the movers to try her. Every night she stayed up past midnight digging through old boxes, scanning every email, every fine, every board minute. That's when she found the pattern. 3 other military families, 2 Army, 1 Marine, had lost homes during deployments in the last 18 months. All sold through the same shell company, Harrington Holdings LLC. All bought cheap, flipped for 6 figures. And then the real gold. County records showing Dottie's husband, Commissioner Harrington, had racked up over $380,000 in gambling markers at a Louisiana casino. The foreclosures weren't about beautification. They were about keeping the Lexus and the country club membership afloat. Lauren printed everything, organized it like battle plans, and quietly started reaching out to the other wives. One by one they joined the secret group chat she named Operation Porch Swing. They compared forged signatures, backdated notices, and the same chilling phrase Dottie used in every recorded meeting. These transient military families don't understand the value of stability. Meanwhile, 8,000 miles away, Ryan was doing what soldiers do best when the enemy underestimates them. He studied. Between missions he read the Service Members Civil Relief Act until his eyes burned. He called Jag. He called his old platoon buddy who was now a Texas property lawyer. And he started building his own file. Dottie, smelling blood in the water, doubled down. She sent private security to monitor the property, 2 meatheads in fake cop uniforms who parked outside the elementary school where Lauren taught. They followed her to the grocery store, the bank, even the twins' soccer games. Parents started whispering. Lauren's hand shook every time she graded papers, but she kept smiling for the kids. Then Dottie made her biggest mistake. She bribed the county inspector to condemn the barn as structurally unsound and scheduled demolition for the following Friday. "We can't have eyesores," she told the board with that saccharine smile. "Think of the children." The morning the wrecking crew showed up, Lauren was waiting on the porch with a stack of papers and a camera rolling. Next to her stood Colonel Jerry Washington, retired 3 streets over and quietly furious. Jerry had been collecting evidence on Dottie for years. He handed the crew chief a single sheet, a federal injunction from JAG. "Touch that barn," Jerry said calmly, "and you're looking at 5 years for violating the Service Members Civil Relief Act. Your choice." The crew packed up and left so fast they left tire marks on Dottie's perfect asphalt. Dottie's pearls practically vibrated with rage when she got the call. She stormed into City Hall, heels clicking like gunfire, demanding her husband fast-track an eminent domain seizure. "For public safety," she screeched. But the walls were closing in. Ryan's JAG lawyers had already filed emergency motions. The Texas Attorney General opened an investigation into Harrington Holdings. And Lauren's group chat had grown to 17 military spouses, all feeding documents into a growing mountain of evidence. Forged signatures, backdated fines, mail fraud, discrimination against protected class deployed service members. Dottie tried the classic Karen playbook, Smear Campaign 2.0. She leaked anonymous posts claiming Ryan had severe PTSD and was dangerous to the neighborhood. She even tried to get the twins removed from school for their own safety. The community started to split. Some bought the lies, but others had seen enough. That's when Lauren dropped the first real bomb. During a late-night video call, she held up a faded 1987 deed. Grandpa Callahan had never sold the subsurface mineral rights when he sold surface land to the developers. In Texas, that meant Ryan owned everything under the entire 1,200-acre subdivision: oil, gas, water, the works. A fresh geological survey the county had paid for, and Dottie's husband had tried to bury, showed significant natural gas deposits right under Pine Valley Estates, worth tens of millions. Dottie hadn't just tried to steal a farmhouse. She tried to steal the golden goose sitting on a powder keg. Ryan leaned into the camera, desert dust still on his uniform, and smiled for the first time in months. "Baby, tell Dottie I'm coming home. And I'm bringing receipts." The neighborhood Facebook group exploded when Lauren posted the welcome home banner photo. "Staff Sergeant Ryan Callahan returns in 2 weeks. Let's show him what real community looks like. 200 RSVPs in 48 hours. Dottie tried to shut it down. Unauthorized event in common area. But the replies were savage. "Maybe you should check the bylaws, Dottie. Oh wait, you never registered the HOA properly with the state." Panic looked ugly on her. She started making midnight calls to Lauren, voice sweet as antifreeze. "Dear, let's settle this like ladies. I'll give you 50,000 and we forget the whole thing." Lauren recorded every word under Texas one-party consent law. $50,000? Lauren laughed. That's what you made flipping the Martinez house last year, right? The one where Sergeant Martinez was in Afghanistan when you foreclosed. Cute. Dottie hung up so hard the line crackled. Then the FBI came knocking, casual questions at first, then warrants for Harrington Holdings. Commissioner Harrington's gambling debts hit the local paper. Dottie's expensive Dallas lawyers suddenly had scheduling conflicts. Ryan coordinated the final phase from a dusty tent in Syria. He studied Texas mineral law the way he studied IED wiring, methodically, relentlessly. Mineral rights are the dominant estate. Surface owners can't drill, can't build, can't even plant a damn rosebush without the mineral owner's written permission. Ryan owned the entire subdivisions underground. Dottie's McMansion sat on his gas. Every perfectly manicured lawn, every HOA-approved mailbox, every overpriced yoga studio in the old barns his. He sent one cryptic message to Lauren. Tell Jerry to have the original 1987 deed ready. And tell Dottie to enjoy her last week as queen. The day Ryan's plane touched down at Fort Hood, the entire Pine Valley estates turned out like it was the 4th of July and the Super Bowl combined. Yellow ribbons everywhere. Barbecue smoke thick enough to taste. Over 500 people, news crews from Dallas and Houston, veterans in dress uniforms, kids waving little American flags. Dottie showed up anyway, because of course she did, flanked by 2 private security goons and her last remaining lawyer. She pushed through the crowd waving fresh foreclosure papers like they still meant something. "This man is trespassing on HOA property," she shrieked, mascara already running in the Texas heat. "Arrest him." The crowd went dead silent. Ryan stepped up to the podium in full dress uniform, Lauren at his side, twins holding his hands. He looked straight at Dottie and smiled. The same calm, terrifying smile he gave enemies right before everything went boom. "Mrs. Harrington," he said, voice carrying across the common area like it used to carry across a battlefield. "You spent 6 years telling everyone I abandoned my family. You told the whole neighborhood I was a deadbeat who left his wife and kids broke. You even told my sons their daddy didn't love them enough to come home." He paused. The silence was so thick you could hear Dottie's pearls clicking as she swallowed. "Well, I'm home now. And I brought some paperwork you might find interesting." Lauren hit play on the projector. The first recording rolled, Dottie's own voice bragging about creative enforcement and calling military families temporary trash that drags down property values. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then Jerry Washington stepped forward with the 1987 deed. The mineral rights clause flashed on the giant screen in 72-point font. Ryan leaned into the mic. "You tried to steal my grandfather's farmhouse so you could flip it and pay off your husband's casino debts. Cute plan. But here's the punchline. You've been living on my land the whole time. Every house, every street, every blade of grass in Pine Valley Estate sits on top of mineral rights I own. And according to Texas law, I can shut down every single construction project, every landscaping job, every attempt to drill for that natural gas your husband's been secretly bidding on." Dottie's face went the color of old cottage cheese. Ryan kept going, voice never rising, which somehow made it worse. "You wanted to frack the whole subdivision for $50 million. Congratulations. You just tried to frack the man who can say no to every single well. Forever." The FBI agents who had been casually attending the barbecue stepped forward with warrants. Handcuffs clicked around Dottie's wrists while she screamed about misunderstandings and political persecution. Her lawyer tried to object. The JAG captain just handed him a stack of federal charges thick enough to use as a doorstop. Mail fraud, forgery, civil rights violations, RICO, embezzlement through the unregistered HOA. The list went on so long the local news had to run a second segment. Commissioner Harrington was arrested at the casino that same night. Turns out the feds had been watching his offshore accounts for months. The courtroom 6 months later was standing room only. Dottie, no longer in designer suits but orange, tried one last time to play victim. "I was only protecting the neighborhood charm," she sobbed. The judge didn't even look up from the sentencing papers. 5 years federal prison for Dottie. 7 for her husband. Full restitution, $3.2 million to be divided among every family they'd targeted. Ryan's mineral rights stayed exactly where they belonged. He used the leverage to block all fracking and force the new HOA board, now run by veterans, to rewrite every ridiculous rule. No more 2-inch grass mandates. No more fining people for flying the American flag too big. Real community stuff only. The old barn became a free mechanic shop for military families. Kids from the neighborhood learned to change oil and fix lawnmowers from a man who once fixed tanks under fire. Lauren's victory garden grew where Dottie's security goons used to park. The porch swing still creaked, but now it carried the sound of twin boys laughing and neighbors who finally learned to speak up. Ryan started the Callahan Veterans Legal Defense Fund with the first year's mineral lease royalties. Money he could have kept but chose to share. 47 families got their homes back in the first 12 months alone. The story went national. Congress even passed the Callahan Amendment, strengthening service members' Civil Relief Act protections against predatory HOAs. 1 year later, Pine Valley Estates held its first annual homecoming festival. Barbecue, live music, veteran stories, 0 fines. Kids ran through the grass that was now allowed to be longer than 2 inches. Ryan stood on the same porch where Dottie once planted her victory sign and watched the sunset paint the Texas sky gold. Lauren slipped her hand into his. Still think distance meant powerlessness? Ryan laughed, the deep, real laugh he hadn't had since before deployment. Nah. Turns out the only thing more dangerous than a soldier at war is a soldier who's finally home. And somewhere in federal prison, Dolores Harrington probably still checks her mail for that one last violation notice that will never come. So here's the question that keeps me up at night, and I want you to answer it honestly in the comments. When the HOA president breaks federal law, forges documents, slanders a deployed soldier, and tries to steal his family's legacy just to cover her husband's gambling debts, was she just enforcing the rules? Or was the soldier who fought back with nothing but patience, truth, and the law the real villain for daring to expose her? Who was actually in the wrong here? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, tell it. Because the next time a Karen in pearls tries to steal from a hero, we'll all be watching. Like if you cheered when the handcuffs clicked. Subscribe for more stories where the little guy doesn't just win, he buries them. Next week we're covering the HOA that tried to fine a veteran for his American flag until he bought the entire block. See you in the comments, warriors. Stay ready.